we have to go back in order to understand what was happening at that time in, well, not just Europe, but actually the whole world, but particularly in Europe, when they, or during the First World War, which was absolutely unbelievably painful and difficult for everybody, for those who were fighting in the Somme and in the mud and the mess, with people being just slaughtered, but also their family all left behind, who died, you know, their children and their loved ones and their family died. It just was torn apart. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that, but it's a fact. And at the same time, a flu epidemic swept through Europe and the Western world. And one other thing happened, which I've got on my notes here, which I find is particularly interesting, is that what was called sleepy sickness came. Have you heard of sleepy sickness? It's, I can't remember the name, encephalitis lethargica. That's the Latin name. Now, people then they just kind of withdrew from the world. They couldn't cope anymore. And they fell asleep. Not just for a night or for a week, but for a decade. And there was no way to get them back into life. Now, when somebody withdraws from life, what are they suffering from? And in the simple answer of you suffer from yourself, they suffered from the unendurable pain of, it wasn't a disease, it was a pain that couldn't be endured. And for me, it's very interesting to see a comparison with where we are now. Now, what are we suffering from now? Well, I'm not going to keep you here to discuss all the different possibilities, but one of the things that we suffer from is excess information, overload, too much information from the computer, from the news, from the pictures. I mean, how are we meant to endure the daily images of people, let's say in this case in Ukraine, but it could be in other countries, many other countries, Afghanistan, you know, wherever you go. And if you have a sympathy with that, which is right and proper, how are we going to deal with it? I mean, I think all of us understand that question and we suffer from it. Well, one answer is, I know, I'm going to go and get a pizza and have to just stuff myself full of food. Yeah, but then you're going to suffer in another way. So we have to be careful, actually, how we respond to this whole thing. And I suppose if we go back to this lecture in 1931 of you suffer from yourselves, the question would really be, what is Bach recommending? What is he saying we need to do? Now, I can ask you that and I can let you have a bit of a talk for a change, but let me just deal with this and answer that question. I think that his view, if you like, is to bring light into the darkness of materialism, of the material world. And when he discovered or was guided into the making of flower remedies, it's the sunlight in the essence and the alterative condition that the sunlight brings with the information with the flowers that actually is so influential upon us and can help us to change.